Welcome to Spy News Central, your source for revolutionary news. We specialize in bringing you tomorrow's news today. I am your host, Sally Severide. Joining me for tonight's Roast and Toast edition is a secret operative and intern correspondent. She is known in the spy world arena as the busybody U.S. chatterbox. While on assignment in enemy territory, she was approached by a secret foreign agent. This secret foreign agent man had been given the assignment to convert her to Islam. Upon returning to his home base, he was brutally interrogated concerning the reason he failed in his mission. Legend has it, his last words to his handlers during his final interrogation were, "Fellas, there just came a time when I had to tell her, CC, it has been nice talking to you, but I gotta go." Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the unbridled intern correspondent who never runs out of ink, CC Coswell.
Thank you, Sally.
On tonight's edition of Roast and Toast, we will be discussing Ayatollah Khomeini's plea to unite all Muslims against Israel.
Thank you, Sally. Yes, after getting in over his head and peering into the abyss, the Ayatollah Khomeini is beginning to realize the reward from his Lord he is about to receive. He wants to share it with his Arab Muslim brothers. It's a gift according to a reckoning. So far, Sally, there are no takers. In calling on Muslims of the world to unite, he further stated that unity among Muslims was the most significant and indispensable requirement of the Islamic world. He continued, referring to the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, as an instructor of virtue, justice, humanitarianism, knowledge, brotherhood, so on and so forth. For a while, Sally, I thought this was some kind of resignation speech for a regime that has for over 50 years beaten, raped, tortured, and executed more Muslim men, women, and children than ISIS. The human rights record of the Iranian regime makes ISIS look like a campout for Girl Scouts. The real problem we have in the West is understanding the difference between ISIS and the regime of jinn ruling Iran. The only thing I can see that is different is the regime in Iran is in power and ISIS wants to come to power. He said the problems of the Islamic world result from the unrighteous system based on pressure and hegemony currently dominating the world. He went on and on and on with a typical propagandist message we have heard many times in the past. He then made mention of Iraq. Sally, he said what is going on in Iraq is a clear violation of human rights and the Iraqis have the right to choose their own government. At this point, I thought surely, Ayatollah Khamenei was going to announce a world peace initiative and declare they were going to pull out of Iraq and allow Muslims to unite and rule their own country without foreign interference in a truly multicultural Islamic nation. I began thinking, wow, if Iran would leave Iraq, then America would leave Iraq and the Muslims of Iraq would unite and we might see the great event with our own eyes. For a while, Sally, the suspense kept building. I was mesmerized at the prospects that a regime that goes too far in the case of believers was actually presenting the Iranian people with a resignation letter. Additionally, Iran's president, who also attended the event, made impressive propagandist statements regarding the oppression of Muslims, the loss of faith, and lack of respect for human dignity, and that more than ever humanity needs to understand the lessons of the Prophet, though he did not give a clear date for the regime's resignation. This has all of the hallmarks of the devil trying to make a pact with Muslims, when pressed by the angels. Additionally, he refused to lay a timeline by which Iranian oligarchs would end the regime's genocide of Sudanese Muslims and quit looting their gold mines. I assume, if Muslims unite under his Unity for Muslims campaign, we will see an end to Iranian regime's human rights violations in all lands of Islam, especially in Iran. Okay, Sally, let's move on to the real analysis.
I agree, Cece. It is very important to keep in mind, Cece, that if Iran and Israel go at each other, ISIS is the one who is going to really profit from this war.
Indeed, Sally, I mean, can you imagine what they'll do to those rich Persian women? I'm told those ISIS devils have the hotties for them.
Cece, ISIS will say the same thing. Genghis Khan said, if you had obeyed your religion this would not be happening to you.
Yes, Sally, if the people of Iran had obeyed the teachings of Islam instead of the self-appointed Ayatollah Khamenei, they wouldn't be in this predicament. I must point out, we warned them do not make mischief in the land. Today, the 10 oligarchs ruling ISIS in the Levant region are salivating at the prospects of an open, unsecured pathway from Iraq to Tehran. Their primary mission is to take the spoils of war and do to captive women what their God wants them to do. Wink. Wink. This is why bombing banks and police stations would be effective. Crack the safes and encourage ISIS to loot. ISIS is all over Tehran today waiting for the opportunity. Modern war technology is affording a range of battle plans never before seen or realized. Again, we warned the Iranian regime, do not make mischief in the land. They ignored our warnings, and this is the result. They accuse America of creating ISIS. The reality of it is that the assembly of oligarchies behind ISIS have existed far longer than America has been a nation. Indeed, the origins of ISIS are from antiquity. The difference today is the appointed caliph has been given the authority to pass the region between heaven and earth.
ISIS, paging, IRGC, pager number 9997734.
Sally, there is that angel, hacking our station again.
Yes, Cece, I still think it is scary.
ISIS, paging, IRGC.
It feels like I am being teleported between heaven and earth, while a gate of hell opens beneath my feet.
I know exactly how you feel, Sally. I sense the presence of pure evil.
ISIS paging IRGC. Answer the pager. Damn it.
Wow, that was deja vu.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Where were we? I don't know. Oh yes, as I was saying. Indeed, the origins of ISIS are from antiquity. The difference today is the appointed caliph has been given the authority to pass the region between heaven and earth. Obviously, having been given such authority, this time I don't see a reason for America to intervene. As a consolation prize, the Ayatollah Khamenei has arranged for atheist Russian and North Korean troops to come to his aid. I can't wait to see how that works for Iran. In his unified Muslim propaganda, Ayatollah Khamenei claims that he is the peacemaker. Sally, now surely Ayatollah Khamenei is the mischief maker, but apparently, he doesn't understand that.
Yes, exactly, Cece. That's part of the reason why Ayatollah Khamenei is getting into trouble right now. He tried to deceive America, Israel, and those who believe, but he really only deceives his cult of followers.
Yes, Sally, I always like to say that Allah is not the only one who knows what the Ayatollah Khamenei conceals.
Cece, the angel Gabriel told me that there is a disease in their hearts and that we have added to that disease. As a result, today they are about to have their backsides handed to them because they have gone too far in the case of believers. After half a century of torturing and executing Muslim believers, they are pleading for Muslim unity.
Ironically, Sally, do you know that they have recently entered a pact with Russia and North Korea? Do you understand the implications? Khamenei is seeking the guidance and military counsel of pagan atheist rulers over his desire to ask Allah for help. How can this be construed as anything but to bring in an assembly of jinn to aid the failing regime? Sally, it is apparent that Allah has deserted Khamenei and so he must turn to these pagan rulers for help. Obviously, he has been left all alone and blindly wandering in his inordinacy. As Khamenei makes a pact with these pagan atheist nations, he calls America the devil. Desperate despots do desperate things, and to think Khamenei executes people in Iran for spreading corruption. I would point out that these agreements with the devil open avenues of extortion and corruption. The IRGC and the Khamenei regime already loot billions from Iranian oligarchs. Wait until Russia and North Korea want a cut of the action. Sally, I deeply regret having to explain the pathetic future Khamenei and his demonic alliance with these atheist pagan rulers is bringing to the Iranian people. But when you suppress the pen, that teaches people something they otherwise would know. Someone, somewhere else has to do the dirty work. Sally, as I always say, you can suppress the pen all you want. It will just find another way.
I agree, Cece, and as well, I feel sorry for the people of Iran. It is a bleak future. Cece, it looks to me like Allah has prepared a big surprise for the Ayatollah Khamenei and the assembly of jinn who support him. I am not sure, but I think it has something to do with prophecy.
Yes, Sally, the Ayatollah Khamenei professes to want a war with the great Satan. Apparently, Allah is so fed up with him praying 6 times a day for a war with the great Satan. At this point, Allah is going to give the Ayatollah Khamenei what he wants. Do you know why, Sally? Because what the Ayatollah Khamenei is expecting is not what he is going to get. Sally, in modern times the concept of my enemy's enemy is my friend is very misguided, or should we say misleading. First off, Sally, we would never make any alliance with such evil. We don't want to be friends with yuck like that. I just think the best way to fight an assembly of jinn is with an assembly of jinn. As to whether to take advantage of the situation, well, we would be a fool not to. In military academy, today we are taught it is better to think of my enemy's enemy as a force that can be manipulated to become my other enemy's worst nightmare. There are ways of helping enemy number 2 defeat enemy number 1. Without an alliance, we can make it appear as though enemy number 2 in this case, ISIS, is mysteriously being aided by Allah. You know, Sally, kind of like giving ISIS a helping hand from the heavens above, as they fight the IRGC. As jihadis call them, the Iranian Rape Girls Corps in green tights. When they see the green tights scattering, it will empower the followers of the new caliph.
CC. The new ISIS caliph will promise them promises. He will promise to distribute the Iranian land and the Iranian women as a reward. He will promise to make his followers the new morality police for the Iranian people. With all of these benefits, there will be no need for conscription.
ISIS has this voracious belief in conquest and the spoils of war. Just like Iran's current assembly of morality police, ISIS believes it is a commandment by Allah to rape Iranian women. Under Sharia law, ISIS soldiers are instructed to rape, pillage, and plunder Shia Muslims in the name of Allah. Indeed, they are on a quest for worldly possessions. They have no manners and no religion. They are waiting for the IRGC to leave their families behind as they go on a quest to rape, pillage, and plunder the Jews. Atomic bombs, drones, and ballistic missiles are of little use when an ISIS jihadi is climbing in your wife's bedroom window while you are gone on assignment to Israel. When Israel gets done blowing up all the Iranian tanks and personnel carriers, the IRGC will be on foot. Oddly enough, the only tanks and personnel carriers in operation will be the US-supplied tanks and personnel carriers ISIS will be using. I can't imagine the plight of IRGC ground forces with blistered feet fighting a really bad evil army at that point in time. Sally. It is a perfect example of jinn fighting jinn. You know, there comes a point where I must admit, I really feel pathetically sorry for the Iranian people. Always remember one thing. ISIS will keep the fires burning in your homeland as you go looking for Jews behind rocks and trees in Israel. Moving on, Sally. It appears as though Allah has dried the Euphrates up so the two forces of evil can begin the melee. I can't wait for a few regiments of Russian and North Korean troops to assemble on Iran's side of the Euphrates. The way I see it, all the world's evil men are entitled to a cut of action. That is why the angels have prepared a way across the Euphrates. The people of Iran need to start paying the North Koreans and Russians to fight their war, since they are all out of 10 to 14-year-olds to fight the rich mullah's war. Iranians will be paying the loan shark debt to the atheist North Korean and Russian mafias for a very long time. Think about it as a tax on crude, if you know what I mean.
CC. What are the taxpayers of Iran paying the IRGC to do anyway? I mean, aside from beating, torturing, and raping the citizens?
Sally. I am pretty sure Allah has it in for them to find out. Wink, wink.
CC. I recently saw a picture of IRGC officers sitting in a stand. A few of them were wearing sunglasses. I immediately thought, if you are sitting around in the bleachers waiting for the Jews to do a thermal demo in the sky, they're going to need sunglasses for everybody. CC, I might mention, in modern atomic terms there is a specific reason those seats are called bleachers. CC, the angels told me. They should be able to figure that out, and if they don't, it is not our problem anyway.
Sally, the angels of prophecy tell me They call it Operation Tickle the Great Satan's Tail. That is why America doesn't want a bigger war. Get the picture?
Keep in mind, CC, at Spy News Central we specialize in bringing you tomorrow's news today, so you can take advantage of it today.
Oh, how true that is, Sally. We need to focus on the theme of the show, the Ayatollah Khamenei's plea to unite Muslims against a small handful of Jews. Let me remind people this is the same regime that has for over half a century beaten, tortured, raped, and executed Muslim men, women, and children. With the same brutality they beat, torture, rape, and execute Jewish men, women, and children. Allah has only respised this cult regime until the day its eyes have become fixedly opened. For half a century Muslims pleaded with this treacherous and oppressive cult regime to quit going too far in the case of a believer. For half a century these pleas of justice to an unjust cult regime fell on deaf ears. They pleaded the cult regime to end the conspiracy with the lawgivers and the assembly of jinn and secret police to quit looting the believers of Islam. For over half a century these pleas of justice to an unjust cult regime fell on deaf ears. The cult regime has looted the citizens of their rightful share in nationalized oil revenues. At today's oil prices, every man, woman, and child in Iran has over $1 million share in nationalized oil resources. What is this cult regime doing with your share? I would point out that the only fair and just way to nationalize a country's natural resources is to use the profit from the sale of those resources to fund a central bank. In accordance with Sharia law, citizens who borrow from the central bank nationalized resources fund will not have to pay interest. They must, however, repay the loan. As in America, the process begins with a small loan. If a citizen fails to repay a loan, he will be barred from future loans. Loans are made for tangible assets, such as homes, cars, and most importantly, for private businesses. In accordance with law, such assets are forfeited by the borrower should default on the loan occur. It is possible to prosecute corruption in the loan process. Aside from fraud, there are no debtor prisons or physical consequences should loan default occur. The only punishment in default is forfeiture of assets and bad credit. The requirement to repay loans establishes the growth of central bank funds. By repaying loans, the money will be available for future Iranian citizens when the fields of crude are all dried up. By converting nationalized resource revenues into funding a central bank, we can establish transparency and accountability of those revenues. We can also preserve those funds for future generations while at the same time engaging in economic development to fund the times of sustenance. For over half a century, the people of Iran have been pleading with the cult regime and its jinn enforcement wing to quit looting the oil revenues of the citizens. Allah has provided the citizens of Iran with the means to end the looting and bring about great prosperity. For half a century these pleas of justice to an unjust cult regime fell on deaf ears. The cult regime looted the poor Kurdish Muslim children to fight the rich mullahs' war, whilst their glitzy IRGC soldiers and secret police jinn stand by in parade dress to protect the mullahs and the Ayatollah Khamenei from civil unrest.
Tragically, CC, the 9 to 14-year-old children of believers are all gone. The cult regime that looted them to fight for Allah, and most of all for themselves, is still there.
Indeed, Sally. They have spent hundreds of billions of dollars on military hardware. They have ransomed the economic future of Iranian citizens to purchase that hardware, only to see it destroyed in an hour's time. Incredibly, this cult regime wants to spend another $100 billion to refurbish the losses. Sally, the best strategy they can come up with is repeating the same bad idea.
CC, their parable is like the parable of one who kindled a fire, but when it had illumined all around them, Allah took away their light and left them in utter darkness. they do not see.
Sally. Today, this cult regime, that goes too far in the case of believers, is pleading with the very people it has beaten, tortured, raped, and executed, to save them from a meeting day with a handful of Jews. Allah has only despised this regime till this day, when its eyes are now fixedly opened. Muslims have long desired a regime change in Iran, not to destroy Islam, but to end the conspiracy of lawgivers and mullahs looting the citizens of Iran. This regime cult leader has been nothing but an enemy to Arab Muslims and his own people. The mullahs and the Ayatollah Khamenei conspire with the lawgivers and an assembly of jinn, the secret police force, to loot the citizens of Iran. This cult regime loots Iranian families, sending their 10 to 14-year-old children off to fight the foreign wars of the rich mullahs. It is a rich mullahs' war and a poor Kurdish Muslims' fight. I don't believe in pitting ethnic divisions within a country against each other, so to speak, the idea of fanning the flames of civil war. However, there does come a time, out of fairness and justice, for a corrupt regime to resign, in the best interest of a multi-ethnic population. This regime ruling Iran is corrupt because they go too far. In the case of a believer, the rich man lives above Sharia law, and the poor man lives under it. They have silenced all the pens, in this prophetic time, of the death of Islamic scholars, those capable of bringing a just word to an unjust ruler. The just Muslims of Iran cry out, who can compare with the cult regime, or rise to fight against it? Sally. The most egregious crime against Allah and the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, the mullahs and the Ayatollah Khamenei commit on earth, is that they loot the faith of Islam.
Yes, CC, and to think, this cult regime executes people for spreading corruption on earth, as they loot their way to hell.
Sally. Muslims pled with them to end the atrocities and oppression of believers. Their cries for justice fell on deaf ears. Today this cult regime pleads with the very same people they once beat, raped, tortured, and executed, to save them from a handful of Jews. My best advice to Muslims at this point in time is to remember a famous quote by Napoleon: never intervene or interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake.
Yes, indeed, CC, I do understand what you mean. Thank you for joining me this evening. You presented a very penetrating insight into the bleak future of Iran.
Sally. Freedom for Palestine and freedom for Iran are one and the same thing. If you want a two-state solution, for Palestine you need to change the cult regime ruling Iran. It doesn't take a Ph.D. in political science to figure that out. You can only free Palestine if you free Iran at the same time. Khamenei offers an alliance with the devil. We offer the peace dividend. Along with that, we bring the time of sustenance for all of Allah's people. The angel Gabriel wants to know, which then of the bounties of your Lord will you deny?
That is so beautifully true, CC. Regrettably, we are running out of time.
Yes, Sally. Unfortunately for most, fortunately for some others, we are out of time, but my pen is not out of ink.
Keep in mind, at Spy News Central, we specialize in bringing you tomorrow's news today, so you can take advantage of it today. This concludes tonight's episode of the Sally Severai Roast and Toast Edition. Thank you for watching.
See you later, alligator.
After while, crocodile.